Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I will kick off the presentation by setting out some of the work that we've been doing in Hounslow in relation to climate and environment. In 2019, we developed our Cleaner, Greener framework, which outlines our collective ambition for the borough as a place where people want to live, visit, raise their families, where our communities and the council work together to maintain the streets and public realm, and our residents lead a happy and healthy lives. Delivering a greener borough is an important strategic priority for Hounslow, and it is a key part to shaping our pledges, plans, and projects. Hounslow is already progressing on a range of projects, particularly aimed at improving air quality in the borough, waste reduction and recycling, and a lot of tree planting, which we'll talk about a bit more. As part of that, also in 2019, we declared a climate emergency alongside 100 other UK local authorities and the GLA and national government, with further action plans linked to biodiversity and greening the borough. We committed to reviewing our existing arrangements in order to reduce the council's carbon footprint and to identify measures which will make the council carbon neutral by 2050. So quite ambitious goals there. These were shaped by in-depth engagement with our residents in order to understand their needs, culture and customs, in order to guide our services and how we change them in order to improve their delivery, and just really to ensure that we are focusing on a collaborative approach with our residents. So this was all happening in 2019, but then in 2020, we of course had the pandemic shake up the world, and with that, Hounslow saw a rapid decline in employment. As a huge proportion of our residents are employed by Heathrow Airport, there was a pressing need to establish a new way forward and a recovery strategy from the economic impact that this had on the borough. That resulted in us rapidly preparing a green recovery strategy, which, as it says on the slide, focuses on stimulating the economy, diversifying the skills of our residents, and enhancing the borough's green infrastructure by creating low carbon neighbourhoods. Furthermore, we've also been developing, just to take this a step further, we've been developing the Green and Blue Infrastructure Strategy, which is also part of Hounslow's Green Borough framework, and it is a key document that we think will play a vital part in the borough's green recovery. Green and blue infrastructure is, of course, well recognized as an essential component to creating resilient, healthy and sustainable communities. So we think this will be will play a real important part to the borough. The strategy essentially will help to address the issues that I kind of mentioned in terms of that the borough is facing in terms of climate emergency, health, social and economic crisis that have resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the key aims of our Green and Blue Infrastructure Strategy are to identify and provide an assessment of the Green and Blue Infrastructure network that we have, to set out the key drivers and needs for the borough, identify areas of deficiency, whether in terms of quality, value, or accessibility, and also to help us shape mechanisms and priority areas for improvements of our existing and new Green and Blue infrastructure elements. Essentially, as part of that, we've also have our Hounslow tree management plan and policy, and the main objective of the tree strategy is essentially to ensure that anyone can take the document from residents to our councillors, to our officers, to ensure to understand how we manage our tree stock, to set out relevant policy as to how we look to carry out works, how we want to maintain our trees and look after them in the long term. Essentially, it is to draw a consistent approach to managing our trees and having a coordinated way of applying the vision of the borough. Both these documents have been out for consultation with our residents and have been well received, and are currently on the final stretch of being adopted, which will hopefully be by the end of this year. I will with that, I will stop talking about strategies and I will pass over to my colleague Phil to carry over.
Thank you for that, Galia, and good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, rather. Obviously, Galia has talked a little bit about the strategies behind our sort of ambitions in terms of the climate change and the green recovery strategy. But a key role in that is taken up by the residents of the borough. The council has an extensive consultation programme, and most of the key strategies that we've just discussed have been put together in consultation and indeed with engagement with our residents. It's the council's objective to ensure that all our community members have a role in shaping the place that they live and the services that they receive. And you know, the climate change agenda is no exception to this. Just let me admit someone else to the meeting. We consulted with residents widely on the Climate Emergency Action Plan, and indeed lots of the priorities and objectives within that plan have been shaped by the residents and our other stakeholders in the borough as well. With particular reference to our cleaner, greener and our climate change ambitions, we have a number of ongoing active groups who are readily engaged. These are our community reference groups, of which we have 3. One of these is the Cleaner Greener group. Another is concentrates on climate and clean air, and then there's also a youth CRG group, which is aimed at people between the ages of 18 and 25. Now, these my colleague Nimesh will tell you a little bit more about these in detail in a moment. But these are groups that meet regularly with the council's leaders and council officers to give opinions and to help influence and indeed have an input into the policies and the strategies that affect everyone's lives in the borough. We have a second group called the Environmental Champions, and they take an active role in the communities in things like litter cleanups, conservation projects, and both of these groups form a sort of ready forum for us to run any of our plans by before we implement them and before we impose them on the public. Just to mention that the council also has a Thriving Communities programme, which aims to involve all sections of the community, and indeed there's a certain amount of funding available for groups that come up with ideas and innovative projects that we can support. And on a wider note, the council has area forums that allow residents that meet on a regular basis to let residents know, to let the council know how they want to get involved and share their experience. So clearly, communications and engagement are key aspects to everything we do, but certainly with particular reference to climate change and to the cleaner agenda. I'll pass you over to Nimesh now.
Thanks, Phil, and hello, everyone. So, as suggested, one of our key community projects as part of Cleaner Greener Hounslow is the Environmental Champions programme. And this is a volunteering scheme that started over 2 years ago, which involves bringing together residents from all over the borough to engage in environmental activities such as litter picking, horticulture, and tree planting. The champions have an opportunity to create their own activities with support from the council. They can also attend council-led activities, workshops, and training sessions. At the moment, we have over 140 champions, and we're continuing to expand the program. So similarly to the Environmental Champions program, we have the Community Reference Groups, or the CRGs, which, although is also a community-focused program, is started 2 years ago. The CRG members offer more of a consulting role with council projects, so take a less hands-on approach. As Phil explained, we currently have 3 CRGs, which include the Climate Clean Air, which is where CRG members assist with council projects related to carbon footprint, CO2 emissions, and air quality. And we also have the Cleaner Greener CRG, which focuses on things like biodiversity, greenery, and waste management. Lastly, we have the newly created Youth CRG, which is where we take in the perspective from young people to advise on and assist with various environmental issues faced in the borough. We currently have a total of around 40 CRG members. I will now pass you back over to Galia to talk about how Greentalk helps us put it all together.
Okay, Thanks, Nimesh. So as mentioned, yes, we are joined by colleagues from Greentalk who will talk a little bit more in detail about this platform they created for us later on in the presentation. But essentially, it is a platform that celebrates the existing and newly planted trees in the borough. It was set out to encourage our residents to get out, get active, and to also give ownership back to our community groups and residents who wish to be involved in looking after our newly planted trees by giving them the opportunity to adopt them, which is something we are all very excited about here in Hounslow. But we've got a little video here, so I don't want to take up all the time. I will have a go at playing it now. Hopefully you can all hear it as well.
My name is Guy Lambert. I'm lead member for Highways, Recycling and Waste and the Council's trading companies. Hounslow is the first council to have logged all its trees. We've mapped 123,000 trees, of which 11,000 are on roads and footpaths. Hounslow's got a plan to tree for every baby born in the borough. That's around about 5,000 every year, more than 350 different species. So last week I was going through Gunnersbury Park and I saw a stand of trees in the middle of a field. I didn't know what they were, so I looked in Greentalk. Greentalk is an app. It tells you where the trees are. It tells you what the species is. It tells you roughly when they were planted. People are interested in what's going on in their environment. Being aware of what's around you, I think, will help make people keen to protect it.
I hope everyone could see this because I can't see anyone or the chat, so hopefully this works fine. But yeah, so this is a little bit of an introduction as to Greentalk, and I'm going to let my colleague Gay talk you through some of our key projects, and I don't want to steal the thunder from Greentalk, so I will let them talk a bit more about the technical side of the app. But I'll hand over to Gay.
Okay, thanks so much, Galia. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what we've been doing on the ground in terms of tree planting and various projects and schemes. And so, as it's been mentioned, the council have made a commitment as part of its Cleaner Greener Borough programme to plant a tree for every child born in the borough. And that sits at about 5,000 at the moment, and so this year we planted around 5,000 trees, maybe a little bit more in fact, and we obviously planted them all over the borough in many different locations. We are also looking at obviously the next few years. We've got a programme for about 5 years, so we will be planting a similar number next year. And we don't have the space to plant all standards. We've planted about just over 350 to 400 standards, but we do plant whips as part of that number as well. So we're creating hedgerows and copses, as well as standalone standard trees as well in parks and open spaces. So if you do come to Hounslow, please look out. There are lots of new trees in our parks and open spaces, highways, and other locations. Okay, next slide. So we've also embarked on a Christmas tree project, and we have planted a real Christmas tree in every ward in Hounslow. We've chosen locations to ensure that they are at the heart of a community, so they may be on a village green or in a civic space. And of course, it's a place for our residents to watch these trees grow over the years, see how they progress. They may be that we may like them, that people may decorate them, but it's a place where people can gather and watch their tree grow and celebrate trees. And with Greentalk, we worked on plotting some special Christmas tree walks. So we had 3 trails across the borough, one in the east, the west and central Hounslow. And you can actually go to the Greentalk website and you can find those trails and you can follow them. Okay, next slide, please. So we also have been supporting the Queen's Green Canopy. and supporting Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee. So all of the standard size trees that we have been planting across the borough, that's within parks and housing and other locations, we have plotted those onto the Queen's Green Canopy website. So that's a map. There's an interactive map on the website that you can go to. You can type in a location, or you can just move around a map and you can see trees that have been planted. In some locations there are photographs that have been put up, and this one here is the Heston Action Group, which I think we have a member on the line watching, where we planted an oak tree with the mayor, and the Action Group also got some of the free trees from the Woodland Trust. Green Space 360 created a copse, and together we all planted a number of trees in Sutton playing fields. Next slide, please. Now, this is one of our most exciting schemes, our residents' tree giveaway. So last year we embarked on a scheme where we wanted to give our residents the opportunity to have a tree in their own garden. And so we basically gave away up 500 trees. They were a variety of different trees, from beech, hazel, hawthorn, pear and fig. And actually the fruit trees were very popular. And that's really interesting because Hounslow does have a history of market gardening as well. And it does have its own varieties of trees. We have the Hounslow Wonder and the Felton Beauty. We have a couple of those actually being grafted for us at the moment, which we are going to plant into some sites around the borough as well. But anyway, the scheme was very popular. We worked with Greentalk. Greentalk managed the whole platform, really. They did that. They managed the registration process. They sent out emails telling people where they could collect their tree, what locations, confirmed what type of tree. And then with Green Space 360, our grounds maintenance team, we had 3 locations throughout, I think it was November, December and January, where people and residents could come and pick up their trees. And we provided information on their tree, how they look after it, how they plant it. And it was a fantastic scheme. And again, working with Greentalk, we asked people to let us know where they planted their tree, and they are now plotted onto the Greentalk website. So you can see where people put them as well. And also with Greentalk, who actually, they didn't have long to put the scheme together. I think it was pretty quick, about 6 weeks. They were very flexible, very agile to listen to what we wanted and to make that work on their platform. And it did go very, very well. We had some fantastic support from our members as well, who came along to some of the giveaways. And then one of the really special things is we are now in touch with all of those people that have planted trees in their gardens. So we can now give them messages throughout the year, make sure you're watering, make sure you're weeding, maybe you need to stake, all those sorts of things. So we have that open connection now with people who have planted those trees. The other thing that we plan to do this year is to run the scheme again with a focus on schools. So we'd like to offer every school in Hounslow a tree. And again, I think the fruit trees are very popular, so we will be looking at those as well. And then maybe we'll move on to other ways that we can provide and help increase our canopy. It might be that we work with businesses and private landowners in the borough as well. So there's a lot on the horizon that we can do with that project. But the main thing is we do have a continual contact with those people who did actually take a tree from us. I think we now have a video that we're going to show you with the highlights of the scheme.
Hi, I'm Josa. I'm a Brentford resident. I heard about this through my mother. She's very into local news and follows all of the Hounslow emails. So she recommended that we come and get a tree today. I've got a hazel. I was picking up one for her as well, but I'm cycling today, so it was a little bit too big. They're just over there. So they've rearranged it, and I have this lovely Golden Delicious, which I'll be taking home in my backpack. So wish me luck.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Dias. I'm Deputy Head Girl at Gumley House Convent School. So I came across this through an email that my mum received, and I really like the initiative. So I flagged this up with our school, and luckily the school got in touch with the Hounslow Council and made this all possible. Well, we'll be taking one of the trees given by the Hounslow Council. We're dedicating our tree towards all the lives that were lost, unfortunately, due to COVID. And we want to commemorate the NHS for all their wonderful work that they're doing. And that's our way of leaving our mark on our school.
Hi, I'm Councillor Samia Chowdhury, Cabinet Member for Leisure Services at London Borough of Hounslow. Today I'm here at Hounslow Heath with my team for the last tree giveaway. Today we are giving away 215 trees to local residents and some schools as well. I was really pleased to meet one of the students from Cumberley Girls School, and they're going to plant that tree within their school, and I've been really happy, and all the initiative we took, it was really great to see lots of people coming forward for tree planting within their gardens, within their homes, and to make Hounslow cleaner and greener. Thank you very much for everything what everyone has done for this project.
I was just going to add one thing actually as well, is that we in Hounslow we've also chosen to create a memorial for COVID, and we started that memorial in this year's planting season with the planting of a beautiful liquid amber in Lambton Park, and we're going to add to that that planting area, and we're going to create a rainbow from trees. So we're going to try and use different colours that have different seasonal interests, which will then, you know, draw people to check on it throughout the year as well. So if you do come to Hounslow, please go and check Lambton Park throughout the coming years. Thank you, Galia.
Thanks, Gay. And I will just hand back over to Phil just to finish us off.
Thank you for that, Galia. So as you can see, guys, there's someone. I'll just admit someone to the lobby again. Sorry about that. As you can see, there's a lot going on, and a lot has already happened. Really, we've only just started, and we want to continue to grow our engagement with the residents of the borough and other stakeholders. We've just devised a new communication strategy for Greentalk, and we want to really continue to enhance the content that we produce on the site. And indeed, we want people to see it as their first port of call for green and environmental issues in the borough. We want to introduce more video and digital content to the site, and we want to include more guest blogs from experts in the field, but also from the people who are involved in the project and those many volunteers who take part in lots of the activities that carry on in the borough. We're all about encouraging active participation by Greentalk members and engaging them in the conversation. In essence, we want to tell the story of trees in Hounslow through the people who care for them, who plant them, and who love them. And so watch this space, guys. I'll now hand over to our colleagues at Greentalk, who will be able to tell you more about the technical aspects of the site.
Great. Thank you very much, Phil. And I think just before we do that, if there are any questions specifically for Hounslow before we move to Greentalk, please put them in the chat. And thank you, Bridget, for bringing to our attention the trees which the Woodland Trust are giving away this autumn. So that's great. And Linda at Heston Action Group is asking whether she can get notes from the presentation sent over to her. And I'm sure that would be something that was possible. Now, any other questions that anybody would like to ask? Maybe put them in the chat. There's one from Kieran there. Did you work with your public health colleagues in devising this programme?
I can answer that one. Yes, we do. We do work with our public health colleagues quite a lot, actually, throughout all of our work in parks and open spaces and other locations. We do work with them on behavioural change and also looking at areas of deficiency or where we have health issues. So we do actually look to sort of focus in on those areas. So we do provide, the best within the resources we can get. We try to provide, the best green green experience. I'm talking from Parks and Open Spaces point of view, but we do that most definitely. It's really key to us that we actually find where we need to work the most. And of course, you know, Hounslow is a diverse borough from east to west, so we do look at all of the data, the public health data, to help us to analyse and strategically work in the areas that need it the most, really. And actually, in the green infrastructure strategy, when that comes live, a lot of the opportunities, of course, will be based on all of this sort of data that is available of our borough.
Great, thank you. And a question from Bridget as well. How do you source the trees? Do you have locally sourced and grown tree stocks, nurseries? And I think that's a very interesting question, something which lots of local authorities are dealing with.
Yeah, so we have a tree manager, a chap called Dave Horgan. He works for Green Space 360. He's been here for quite a while for Hounslow, and he has some fantastic connections with different suppliers. We use Bartram's, we use a variety of sort of tree sources. We also, for some specialist trees that we have engrafted, we use particular fruit tree growers. So we have built those relationships up over the years. And what we are starting to do now is pre-order trees, because of course the amount of stock of trees, everybody wants trees because we're all planting, and we're all very conscious of increasing the canopy. So that means that actually supply is becoming a little limited in some locations. So we are now starting to pre-order our trees, and that's through our developing our relationships with suppliers, and looking at, you know, right tree, right place. So Dave does that. He goes around the sites, he identifies where there are spaces and the appropriate species as well for those particular places, and then we start the conversations with the tree suppliers. The fruit trees, we have a particular supplier as well that we've been giving away as part of the free giveaway as well. So we're building a relationship with somebody on that as well. So that's a really, really important element.
Great, thank you very much, Gay. That's really interesting as well. And I'm sure something that's repeated across the country. These relationships are so critical. I think this will be the last question before we move on to Green Talk from Susan Richards. And she wants to know about the council's policies towards existing trees in people's gardens, particularly when it comes to cutting them down. So I'm assuming that's around tree preservation orders and how those are managed or enforced, perhaps. I'm not sure whether that's one that we've necessarily got the expertise here on, but
yeah, I'd say that we don't have the expert here, but that is all managed by our planning team. So the planning will be dealing with that aspect. We can get more information for anybody who would like to know a little bit more about that. But of course, they do follow the planning guidance, nationally recognised guidance on those issues. And there probably, I would imagine, is some information on our website as well about those issues. But maybe that's something that we could look at Green Talk to help maybe provide some of that information as well, or where people can go to find out about that and those types of questions.
Great, thank you very much. Linda's snuck in there with a question as well. How are Hounslow keeping abreast with tree preservation orders and saving our protected trees? So hopefully that will be something that again you sort of covered there, Gay, and that will be stuff that will appear on the website. So I think maybe as we're sort of got a fairly tight schedule here, we'll have to move on to Green Talk, and if there is some time at the end to ask more general questions, we'll try and come back to some of these. So thank you for your questions, and I think I'm going to hand over to Rob now.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much, Galia, Nimesh, Gay, and Phil, for the insights in terms of the strategies that are taking place and evolving in Hounslow, as well as also the interesting initiatives that you have going on there in Hounslow. So I'm sure that will be something that people will be very interested in. What's going to be happening moving forward. So yes, just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Rob Testain, and also I'm one of the directors of Green Talk, along with Steve Pocock and Paul Wood, as you know, who are both on the call. And after my quick presentation, then we'll also be able to answer some of the questions that you may have as well. So I just want to start off by saying with this slide, which is 77% of UK local authorities have a climate action plan in place. Now, trees are really interesting because they help to inspire people to get out and enjoy and to find out more about what's happening in their local environment. And most importantly, they help to mitigate climate change. So what we've been doing with Hounslow Council is that we've been working with them to try to make a difference, and this is what they're doing as part of one of their strands for tackling their strategies. So we've created Hounslow Greentalk, and it is residents focused. It's about engaging residents and giving them information about trees and providing it in a positive way so that they can understand more about what's happening on their doorstep, as well as the local trees in their environment. And it's also a really good way of being able to display the information, the green infrastructure that Hounslow have got, and to get local residents and community groups more engaged with that. So they've been at the forefront of this, and we've been very happy to be involved with the way that they've been using their tree data. So we've been working with some of their tree partners to help create our map, which we've got over 123,000 trees that are displayed in Hounslow, to help encourage and promote health and well-being. So the way we do the health and well-being aspects is that we create we provided the infrastructure for specific trees and to display them in a way that makes them really interesting and engaging. We also do the active travel by allowing residents to create their own routes, so they can go and explore what's around them and help to reconnect to nature. And also we've been working with community groups to help push the message forward, to help drive the local volunteers to understand what's going on around them, and also to help use the platform to do things like the tree giveaway. So just a quick snapshot about Hounslow Greentalk. So we launched this last year in April 2021, and I think we initiated the conversation. It's been going for the past few years, but when we started it, the real engaging part for us was actually getting the tree data, which was sort of the first point for us. So we were able, when we launched, to get 123,000 trees on our map, of which 35,000 trees are their individual trees, which means that we've got specific information about those trees, some eco facts, timelines, and descriptions, which help to bring it alive. And I'll take you through some of those examples fairly soon. We've also developed a technology that allows residents to register and interact with the Hounslow Greentalk. So doing things like having social features where they can like and share trees or adopt trees are really important in this time, because we know that there's an ongoing story. It's not just about planting trees, but it's also about making sure that those trees grow, they thrive, and then that they get bigger, so that we are making sure that that those trees they don't die after the first few years. So we've been working hard on that technology to make that happen. And you can visit this at hounslow.greentalk.io. So in terms of engaging local communities, the types of things that we've been doing is we've been focusing on creating the opportunity for residents to create healthier active travel routes. So we've been developing our walking engine, if you like, and what it does is that a user can put in their address or their location, and we can create tree line routes for them, which takes them from A to B or circular from their doorsteps. The way we can do this is that we've got all of this data, which is within our system, and it points to we've got a very in-depth tree species directory. I think with over 380 different types of species which are in our directory, and they're full of photos, and we can integrate that to the map, so that we can create these really visual, exciting ways to be able to create routes. In terms of the tree data as well, as was mentioned, we also I've been updating the website to incorporate newly planted trees. So it's the website is an ongoing feast where we start off with one set of data, but it's ever growing, and our ambition is to have this growing every year. So as newly planted trees are put in the ground, then we can update the website and they can be adoptable, for instance. And in terms of supporting projects, I think one of the really exciting things for us is that we've been able to help Hounslow with projects at really quick rate in terms of getting a brief and then being able to deliver it. And I think the flexibility as well, being able to create nice communication packages around that has helped us and helped Hounslow to help bring it alive for the local environment. So how does it work? What does Greentalk actually do? So this is an example of the Hounslow area with the map. And if I click on this next slide, then you see this is part of our tree information panel, and it has information about the different types of trees. I'll take you through these next two slides as a demonstration in a minute. So this next slide is when a user creates a green walk. The user can type in their address, and then a map is created which takes the user from A to B or circular with some interesting information along the way. And in terms of tree resident adoption, this is an example as well of what we can do. So a user can go and find an adoptable tree, and then through email notifications, find out when the tree needs watering. We've developed a watering recommendation engine, so when it becomes really dry as well, then residents will get notified to go out and water their tree. And by tree adoption, we mean that it's free. It's about residents helping the council to help keep trees alive, in addition to what the tree partners do normally, which is water the trees on their regular schedules. So if I take you through, give you an example of Hounslow Greentalk. So this is the homepage of Hounslow Greentalk. If I just go quickly to the map, and I think what's really great about this is the number of green points that you see within the Hounslow boundary there. And those green points, they're individual tree points. I can go and find a tree. So if I type in Lambton Road, which I know is it's near Hounslow House, the council office, then what all those points are, they're individual trees. If I click on one of those, then on the left you'll see a display. That display will tell you information about the trees. So I can click on the about, and you can see the interesting species directory that we've got, where we're able to show different types of images about that tree. We've got the social features. Users are able to like a tree, to show that they appreciate it, and to share those trees with other users and their friends. We've also got some really interesting facts and figures that we've been able to incorporate from the tree data that we get supplied, such as the value of the tree, the age, and other amenities such as the health and canopy spread. To give you an indication, just scroll back out a bit. So you'll see that as I scroll out my species view, click on this. You can see that within this web view, you'll be able to see the number of trees that we've got. If I click on, for instance, Norway maple, then it highlights those trees which are Norway maple trees. So you can find trees that you're interested in just by looking at the different species in that area. We've also got ecofacts, and ecofacts are really interesting because they're a way for us to display things like the age of trees. So if I click on that, you'll see that there are a number of trees that are up to 100 years old there, as well as the height of trees. So some of the tallest trees are around Lambton Lambton Park up in the north here, as well as some of the value of trees. So where we've got that information, they're mainly street trees. We use the caveat value to determine the value of those trees. So that there are a number which are at the lower end of the scale, but there are some trees that we know are in the millions in Hounslow. But going back to let's go back to Lambton Road again, and what I'll show you is an example of a green route that can be created. So if I take that same tree, the Raywood ash, I could create a circular route from this tree, and this route will take you through past other green space, but also it will highlight the different trees that are along the route. And so as you can see, a user would just go in, create their route, and then they'll be able to follow that route and find out more about their trees. And then we've got interstitials, so every sixth tree, then they'll be able to find out where they are within the map. Now I'm just going to flip over to the next section, which is about resident tree adoption. And why this is really important for the council and for us is because we know that there are really high tree planting targets, but one of the things that we've been working really hard to do is to try to keep trees alive. We think that helping to keep trees alive is an obvious thing to do, and also ultimately it saves the council money. And we could talk into tens of thousands of pounds just by keeping trees alive and getting residents to help by watering and engaging. So we highlight newly planted trees, which are up to 5 years old, by these tree points. And I don't know if you can quite see it, but there's an A there on the green point. And that means that this tree is adoptable. So as an example, if a user wants to come and adopt a tree, they would just click on that button. They would get a notification to agree and adopt that tree. And then when we click that button, then it will say, thank you, you've adopted this tree. And it's as simple as that. And then we send out the watering notifications thereafter to help remind residents that it's time to water their trees. And also where we've been able to update is with the activity timeline as well. We're able to show different residents, different users, what people have been doing. So in this case, I've just literally adopted a tree and it showed up. We've also got a nice calendar here which shows when it's last rained or not. And I think a bit further down, we've got some users that have liked the trees. So that's just a snapshot of what tree adoption is like. And then also within our email systems, then you get notifications as well about the trees that you've adopted. So it's quite detailed. So if I go back to the presentation, the next slide I've got here is aspirations for the future. So we really think that this is very exciting for Hounslow moving forward, and we're so glad to be part of this journey, because there are lots of other things that we can do to help make this data work a lot harder, and to bring the value to the council, such as being able to suggest tree planting locations, being able to see it on the map, where are areas that have potential opportunities. We can work together with the council in terms of helping to deploy their green infrastructure strategy. So how can we link up their planned green corridors, as well as doing things like integrating canopy data, so that we can help identify those locations. Also, just as a reminder, this isn't just about trees. From a wider perspective, we can integrate other aspects such as wildflower gardens or other green infrastructure, or even EV charging points, if you like, to help make this map much more engageable and utilized by local residents. And finally, we've also got things like air quality data. So one of the important bits that we've been doing with our reading is that we wanted to keep improving it to make it make the experience even more pleasurable for local residents. So being able to integrate things like air quality data, providing the best routes, healthiest routes for residents and communities to go by, it's really important for us. So I think I'll stop there, and thanks for your time. If you've got any questions, then we'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you very much, Rob. That was brilliant, even though I'm slightly connected to it, so maybe I'm biased. But great to see what Greentalk is doing with Hounslow. Really innovative, I think. Now, we've got a couple of questions. So first of all, very interesting. Thank you, Bridget. Susan Richards is asking whether we can get the notes afterwards, and I'm sure that's something that we can do, Susan. All these events will be shared on the Urban Tree Festival YouTube channel, and I'll paste the link in for that. But if anybody else has any questions about the presentation specifically, or any of either the Hounslow presentation or the Greentalk presentation, please do put them into the chat and we can ask those. So if there are any questions at all, if not, I'll try and make some up. So Linda has one. Could air temperatures be part of data in less green areas to show how greener gardens can alter the temperatures towards climate change? So I'm assuming what Linda, you mean is that if we are able to have more detailed temperature, very localized, we can show how canopy cover, how tree canopy cover can actually make a positive impact. So you can see the difference between areas that have tree canopy and those that don't, and it's a way of illustrating that. If I'm wrong, please do shout, but that's roughly what I'm thinking. Maybe that's one for Rob and Steve.
I'm also thinking about paved gardens, because there's an awful lot of that going on too. So it's about using greenery to maintain a sensible temperature. I'm thinking from my Heston point of view, because it's very paved here. I won't say any more.
Okay, well, thank you. I think is that something, Rob and Steve, that you'd be able to talk to? I'm sure, you know, it's data essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure Steve would have a few comments there about some of the data aspects of that. I know he's been working quite hard with the you probably quickly saw the weather gauge that's appeared, and it's actually, it looks really simple, but it's very sophisticated behind the scenes. Perhaps I'll hand you over to Steve.
Yeah, I think it. Yes, okay. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, Linda. It could. I mean, one idea I was wondering is you could almost get. You could almost ask people to crowdsource it and ask people to go outside and measure temperatures themselves. That might be interesting to see the to actually physically see the difference. There are data sets, I think, that might be able to be displayed which show the sort of variation, and it would highlight what you're saying. It would highlight areas as being cooler and more shaded, and the way that during the daytime that a really shaded road will stay cooler during the daytime and stay cooler into the night than a more open one. And I think you and I know the areas we're talking about. There are areas of Hounslow which are very tree free and probably could benefit from some large trees, and there are some other areas which have really large trees, and you walk down and it's very cool. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea, Paul.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much. I hope that answered your question, Linda, to some degree at least. But essentially, I think what Greentalk is able to do is take data, if it's available, and turn it into something that visualizes these things so people can understand more about their environment. There's an interesting question from Bridget, and maybe this is one for Hounslow as well. Are you able to share any information on the costs of the project and how it was funded? So I think maybe what what budget did it come from? Did it come from the council's climate action budget or supported from other sources? I should just say that Greentalk is a licensed product, so it's a platform that has been augmented by additional development which has been driven by Hounslow, but there is a form of it which is available for other council areas.
Thanks, Paul. Maybe I can try and answer this one. So in terms of costs, yeah, as Paul said, it is licensed program. So there is, I don't know whether you guys would like to share your license costs, but essentially it is, you've got a license fee that is on an annual basis, and that would help you with setting up the community, some of the community groups, and mapping out the trees. In terms of like all the individual other projects that we've done, in terms of the resident scheme, in terms of Christmas trees, all these little elements, they're various, and they have been, as much as it's been kind of ad hoc added on. So the guys at Greentalk have been very flexible with that, and we've worked on like individual basis in terms of the projects. So each would cost differently, but we do essentially, it would come out of our climate and environment sort of capital funds. Essentially, it hasn't been, you know, funded through a grant or anything of that sort. So I don't know whether that answers the question, but
I could jump in there as well, Galia.
It's as well as I can do, I think.
Yeah, I could help answer some of that question as well. I think it really depends on what you want to achieve with any of the data that you've got, and how you want to reach out to the users. So it depends on the types of sort of user cases that you like, because in terms of scalability, we can go very small, micro, to sort of council, and you may have seen Tree Talk London. We've got over 800,000 trees which are visible in the Greater London area. So it really depends on what you want to display, scale, and then the interactive features, because we've been building these, and we think that we've got lots of different user cases to suit different needs. But you can find out more on our website, and be happy to speak more and provide more information to you later.
I'll put some links in the chat for you, Bridget, and anybody else that's interested. And are there any other questions? We've still got 5 minutes, so I'm sure there's time to address anything else that anybody would like to discuss. Maybe not. One of the questions which I was wanting to ask perhaps was how successful is the Tree for Every Child project, and how were you able to get that working and so on, and promote it, I suppose. So maybe that's a question for Gay.
Yeah, so within the council, we have a working group that has a representative from different parts of the council. So there's someone from parks, from housing, from highways, and we've got some other people that sit on the group as well. And together we all have an annual tree planting project that we've undertaken for a number of years, really. But we have very much come together to look at where we are planting our trees, and actually look at the different figures and how we can then meet that target figure that we have pledged. Obviously Parks has the biggest lion's share of space within council owned property, so we do take the majority of the trees, but we have been doing a lot of tree planting over the years. And like I said, our tree manager, who actively manages our tree stock in parks and open spaces, he is going around with his team and is identifying areas where we can plant, or where we can put hedgerows in, or where we need to replace, or things that have failed, that have been felled. So all of that is mapped by him. So then he offers the opportunities within parks and open spaces, and then our other colleagues then offer the opportunities and within the work they're doing within public realm, etc., as I've mentioned. So we do very much come together as a team to meet that quota. And we have met that quota. Of course, like I said, we can't be planting standards everywhere, but we are planting half standards and whips, etc., where we have space. And then, of course, we have put some specials in, which are much larger trees, like the liquid amber that we put into Lambton for the COVID memorial. So yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward, because of course that is a large commitment, and we are planting trees where we can, and we are so keen that they are planted in the right place. So that's why, of course, we want to include residents, and then going forward we'll look at other ways and other owners that we can include who don't already have an active tree planting program, so we continue with that quota. And then, of course, one of the big important things is managing our current tree stock as well. It's not just about planting new trees, it's about managing what we've got. And that's equally important, because that is our canopy cover. That is what is, creating our landscape and, increasing our resilience to climate change as well. So that's a really important factor, whilst we're managing all sorts of pests and diseases as well along the way. So it's moving, we're talking regularly, and, we're planning it together. It's very much a planned approach.
Great, thank you very much. It is a great program, really interesting initiative. And there's a question from Sarah, and she's asking about the Adopt a Tree program, and what's the take up been? How does that work? I wonder, maybe Rob, that's one that you could address in terms of the history of it and how because it's only just started, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, it only has just started. One of the main aspects when we started up Hounslow Greentalk was that we identified that this was sort of quite key in terms of the resident engagement aspect, as well as also the sort of the monetary value of it as well. I think that anecdotally there's a sort of a 20 to 30% number of trees, newly planted trees, which don't make it after the first few years. And what we wanted to do was to help bring that number down. This was all part of the plan in terms of the initial structure of the program. But what it involved was actually getting those newly planted trees onto our map. So we've now managed to get that onto the map. And unfortunately, last year we were still under quite a lot of the COVID restrictions as well. So a lot of the messaging in terms of going and adopting the trees, was kind of hindered. And it's only now that we're able to go out to residents and to help promote that. So I think over the sort of the past month, we've got over, I think it's over 1,000% increase in the amount of percentage take up over the course of the past month, and that's just through communication alone. Having the lockdown did have an effect for us, though, is that we were able to help refine the structure of the website. So in terms of being able to identify which trees were adoptable, creating the back-end functionality for users to be able to go onto their account pages and to find out more about what trees they've adopted, as well as this watering recommendation engine, which we think is going to be quite key in terms of engaging the residents to go out and water their trees. It's something which, I think as well in terms of the seasonality, now coming into spring and now moving in towards summer, it's going to take up. And certainly when it becomes warmer and drier, we're hoping that we're going to be able to recruit more tree adopters, and then that's when we'll start seeing the results. But I think it's too early from our perspective to be able to say numbers, because there hasn't been
How
enough
many trees have you you mentioned a figure to me of the number of trees that are adoptable. That was quite impressive. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah,
thousands, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we're just under 3,000 adoptable trees over the past 2 planting seasons.
Lots of opportunity for Hounslow residents there to get adopting. So if there are any on here, that's your task for the next few days. So I think that's about the end of the presentation. So thank you all very much for that. It was really interesting. A reminder to everybody here that there are plenty of other activities and events going on in the Urban Tree Festival. It's on for the next 7 days. There are live events all over the country and more online events. Please do check out the website and see whether there's any of those that you'd like to join. And thank you to Hounslow and to Greentalk. And if there's any final words from anyone from Hounslow, please do chip in.
Nothing particular, but thanks to everyone that's joined and had a lesson during your lunch hours. Hope you enjoyed it and you've found out some new things about Hounslow for those that are from or not from Hounslow. So thanks everyone.